This week's best MMA bets, we're talking UFC 293. I'm going to give you guys my lock of the week, my most confident picks on the card, favorite underdogs, prop/value bets, and then finish it out with the parlays. So make sure you guys smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Turn the post notifications on and make sure to share the video as well. I'm feeling really good because last week we hit with Volkan Oezdemir the lock. That makes 3 locks in a row. We're going for the 4-peat this Saturday, and I'm feeling real good about it. So without further ado, let's get into the lock of the week.
Fighting out of Auckland, New Zealand, Carlos Blackjack Ulberg.
Carlos Ulberg over Da Un Jung is going to be this week's lock. I feel really good about Ulberg's knockout ability in this fight. I see Da Un Jung as a respectable test for Carlos Ulberg, but definitely very passable. I see the style of striking of Un Jung. He does have dangerous boxing, and he can bring some pressure with his punch combinations. He's going to be completely outgunned in the slickness department, in the precision department, and the overall kickboxing skill set vastly favors Carlos Ulberg, who I think is just better from range too. I see Da Un Jung getting chinned. If you dig back to a recent loss for Da Un Jung, it was against a former Glory kickboxer, Dustin Jacoby, who knocked him out pretty badly in the first round of that fight with not this big winded up knockout punch, but just a good precision straight shot down the line. Carlos Ulberg has the precision to get the KO here. And now as far as the betting lines, Ulberg is a bit wider than I would like for a lock, but this week we got chalky lines. We got minus 255 for Carlos Ulberg. Around that range is what you're going to find them at, with a knockout prop sitting at minus 140. I do think the knockout's going to hit, but obviously the lock is the straight money line side. Another little prop bet, an under to look at. The under 1.5 is a plus money tag that I think is possible here at plus 100 for Ulberg. I really think on the feet he's going to style on Da Un Jung in this fight here. Jung's on a 2-fight losing streak. Obviously, Ulberg, as an MMA fighter, has now come into his own. He's looking better than ever every time that he fights. The Poteria knockout last time was sick. He took Negu Mediano out with ease. Tafa Chukwi with one shot. His striking is top caliber. He trains with Israel Adesanya, one of the best pound-for-pound fighters on the planet. And obviously, those guys are working together all the damn time. And you can see the MMA adjustments. Now, something people will bring up, and I can already see it in the comments, is they're going to talk about Kennedy Nzechukwu, who was able to weather the storm from Ulberg and beat him early in his UFC run. And then obviously that Da Un Jung was able to stop Nzechukwu with strikes. MMA math doesn't necessarily work. The stylistic matchups are what's at play here, and that was some years ago now. Carlos Ulberg has shown consistent evolution in his game. I mean, when he fought Fabio Cherant, I believe about 1.5 years ago, his skill set was solid there. Definitely played it more on the safer side in that matchup and won a clean decision. But the 3-fight knockout win streak, he's evolving as an MMA fighter, showing consistent improvements and finding that comfortability in the cage that is so valuable, especially against a fellow striker like Da Un Jung. I can't see Un Jung taking down a Carlos Ulberg and controlling him. So he's forced into a kickboxing match where Ulberg is at his absolute best. It's Ulberg. It's emphatic knockout. It's a sick win. Minus 255 the money line. Lock of the week here for Carlos Ulberg. I say he's getting it done, and we got a nice little 4-peat coming our way this Saturday with an exciting featured prelim and the lock being on the line. So I'm hyped for that. Make sure you guys tune into the Fight Companion. I'll be live for the whole card, and you guys can sweat out the lock with me. But you know what? I don't think it's going to be too sweaty. I think it's a knockout. I think it's going under 1.5 with Ulberg getting his hand raised. KO. That is the lock of the week. I do want to jump to my most confident picks on the card. Regardless of betting lines here, I'm throwing you the confident calls that are on this card. So I'll bring them up on the screen now. We got 4 of them per usual, unlike last week when we just brought the 3 out because of the swaps of matchups. So we got first Israel Adesanya, who I'll talk about. Adesanya, to me, is fighting a Sean Strickland that has too many gaps to overcome in the matchup. Yes, the line sucks. It's minus 650. There is no money line attack here unless you're Drake and you're throwing big cash down. Because throwing $650 to make $100, it ain't that optimal. It is going to hit. Because Israel Adesanya, I see with a clear-cut kickboxing edge. Movement is better. I think he's going to find his strikes beautifully. He'll have good setups on Sean Strickland, who Dan Hardy actually pointed out at times will go to block kicks with his hands. And imagine you do that with Izzy. He's going to be making reads, and then he'll bring a kick up high and potentially put the lights out. I think Izzy's getting a knockout of Sean Strickland. It's KO plus 115, so you do get a little action with a KO prop, a little plus money play. And for a minus 650 favorite, a KO prop at plus 115, the style of Sean Strickland is to come forward and make it a fucking fight. He's not going to play it safe. Yeah, people will say he should look to grapple here. And maybe he tries to grapple a bit and show, he's got that edge on the floor. That would be, high fight IQ Strickland, which not necessarily what he brings out. He looks for knockouts. That's his style. How easy is it going to be to take Israel Adesanya down? And not only take him down, is it even going to be highly likely that Sean Strickland gets close enough in on takedown attempts? Israel Adesanya is hard to take down. He moves very well. Guys that move well with kickboxing are hard to get a hold of. And I think here, Israel Adesanya is damn hard to get a hold of. I don't see Sean Strickland doing it. I got Adesanya. I got win by knockout. Yeah, he's a big favorite, but it's a high confidence pick, and he's in the most confident pick section. Starting it off with the main event call that I'm feeling real good about. The next on the slate is actually our featured bout, Manel Kape over Felipe dos Santos. This is a mismatch. Felipe dos Santos is a fun prospect, but he should not be fighting a top-tier flyweight in the world at just 22. He's going to get destroyed in this fight here. Now, obviously, Chute Box, Diego Lima team, guys from there are dogs, and they train with savages. I think that Dos Santos has a fun future in the UFC, and I do think he was eventually going to get here. He chose to take an extremely high-risk, high-reward fight. Unfortunately, in the octagon, it's not going to be a victory. For his career, for his financial success, it's an absolute win. I think Kape is knocking him out. Now, he's a big favorite, minus 370, for good reason. He's an experienced veteran. He's been one of the better guys at flyweight in the world for a very long time. He also had a run in Ryzen, fighting some savages over there and doing well. In the UFC now, I like Manel Kape to be a contender heading into 2024. I'd like to see him potentially fighting for the belt. He's got a dynamic striking style and a well-rounded game with great explosion and knockout capabilities. He's getting a knockout here. The KO sits at minus 150 for Kape. Yes, you're throwing the chalk at it in the minus territory, but I do think he gets the KO of Dos Santos, who is a little bit raw and reckless for my liking. Now, as far as the under, I do think we are going under in this matchup. I'm looking at the under 2.5 rounds sitting at minus 180. I don't think that's a crazy play at all. I think minus 180, under 2.5. Kape probably gets the stoppage. It would be a victory for Dos Santos alone to go the distance. That would actually be kind of mind-boggling. I think Kape's knockout capability here is going to work perfectly into the fight. Dos Santos, taking on short notice, will throw himself into the fire a bit, and I think Kape KOs him. It's actually a bad look for Kape if he doesn't get a finish here, because he was scheduled to fight Kai Kara-France in a perennial top contender fight. Felipe dos Santos is an ex-LFA fighter. There's a big gap in the competition, and I think Kape should style on Felipe dos Santos. This should not be a competitive fight. It should get done inside of the distance. Kape, KO, hand raised, high confidence call. The next one is Jamie Mullarkey over John Makdessi. This fight makes all the sense in the world for Jamie Mullarkey to win, in my opinion. I do want to bring up the height and the reach of both guys just so I can, break it down with a little bit of stats on this one. Mullarkey's a high confidence pick, not only for the actual style that he brings to the fight, which I think gives fits to John Makdessi, but just prediction statistics alone. We have 29-year-old Mullarkey to 38-year-old Makdessi. We got a 9-year age difference. Percentage is obviously strongly in the favor of Mullarkey. Then you add in a 4-inch reach advantage for Mullarkey. 4-inch height advantage, not a 4-inch reach, a 6-inch reach advantage. Makdessi's a kickboxer that wants to style from the outside. Malarkey, even though he's the longer guy, I think he finds big success in out-muscling Makdessi in the close range. Makdessi's never gotten that big UFC win. He's been on the roster forever. I remember John Makdessi years ago in the UFC and always feeling like, nah, he's not really that guy. Made his UFC debut all the way back at UFC 124, St. Pierre versus Koscheck 2 in 2010. 2010 was his debut, and he's still here in 2023. That's crazy in its own right. And I mean, he's done fairly well with a win over Ignacio Bahamondes in 2021. Haqparast got him on the cards. I think Malarkey's too much for him. In the striking department, I think Malarkey can do fairly well to avoid Makdessi's potential kicking attack, which is really what I see as maybe the only threat. I don't see Malarkey, though, getting high kicked here. I think Malarkey out-muscles him, out-grapples him, and can outwork him for 3 rounds. I wouldn't be all over the prop betting side. I'll say decision is my method of victory probably for this fight here at plus 110, but it's not something that I want to go throw everything at because there's a chance Malarkey beats him up on the ground and finishes him off. Now, as far as money line, minus 280, it's crazy wide, sure. But it makes a lot of sense that it's this wide. Not only are all the intangibles in the favor of Malarkey, I think stylistically this is a good matchup for him. I like Malarkey to win a lot here. I'm saying he's getting it done. Judges' scorecards, though. He should win it by a decision, and he is a very high confident call on this card. The next guy that's a confident pick, it's Nasrat Haqparast, ugly as hell line at minus 470. It is going to be something that would be more of like a long parlay where you're throwing a little extension. Landon Quinones is a decent prospect, but Haqparast is a savvy vet, and he's still a young guy in his own right. I think he's going to be able to outwork Quinones for the 3 rounds. Haqparast is not a great finisher. I feel as though he's probably going to end up winning a decision over Quinones. Though I like Quinones being signed to the UFC, Haqparast as a debut is going to be trouble for him. And, you know, he was badly beaten, like 50 seconds, triangle choke against Jason Knight. Coming in here against Haqparast, I don't want to have everybody thinking, yo, he got subbed real quick in that fight. It's going to happen again here. Haqparast is not necessarily known for, subbing guys up. If you look at Haqparast's run, he has 0 wins by submission. He's not a submission threat normally. It's knockout or it's decision. He's more of a kickboxing style. I see him outworking Quinones for 3 rounds and getting it done on the judges' scorecards in this fight here. But I just wanted to talk about a line that I thought was kind of crazy. Sub is plus 1,800 for Haqparast. That's damn wide. Decision plus 125 is more likely. Money line is ugly as hell at minus 470, but it's still a confident call. I have to bring it up because it's a confident call, and I'm throwing you guys my confidence regardless of the betting lines. These are the most confident picks. I like this section a lot here this week. Notably, you can look, Justin Tafa's getting left out, and previously I actually thought he was a lock when he was fighting Lane. The reason I didn't go that way is because when you watch their first fight, the length of Lane, very early, it was a quick fight, but it looked like a potential difficulty for Tafa to get through. Still picking Tafa to win that fight, but just thought I'd, quickly touch on that for a lot of you that have been around since then, and I've seen that call, and like, yo, man, now you're off Tafa completely? Still picking him. Just don't feel like he's a lock. And don't have him in the most confident pick section. An honorable mention in the most confident picks is going to be Charles Radke. I think Radke ends up beating Mike Mateta, Blood Diamond. And we'll talk about Radke in the prop/value bet section because I got an idea brewing for that one. But I do want to jump to my favorite underdogs. And I'll tell you guys straight up, I don't love the underdog attacks on this card. As far as what my picks have, I don't love the dog side as much. I like my most confident picks a fuckload. I love the lock of the week. The underdog section's iffy. We got a coin flip fight. Kiefer Crosby, Kevin Jousset. I got Crosby. Plus 135. I spoke about the potential for Crosby to outdog Jousset in a hard 3 rounds. I don't feel like the skill set from what I'm seeing of Jousset is overly impressive, but the rumblings that I'm hearing is this is a guy giving Adesanya trouble in the training room. And he's a welterweight. So that's great to hear if you're on the Jousset side. How much is Eugene Behrman overhyping his guy? What rounds is he winning? Is it positional rounds? Is it situational sparring? Or is it live action? So I'm just not overly sold on it. I think Kiefer Crosby being an ex-Bellator fighter, dangerous Irishman, I think he can get the win, man. The Irish need a W over the French because last week in Paris, the Irish took some L's. And I think Crosby is going to bring the heat early in the night and get a W, plus 135 for it to happen. Not saying go bet the house. Not even telling you to bet. I'm not telling you to bet anything. It's not financial advice, just my opinion. I think he can win. I think it's a hard fight, but I think he can win. Plus 135 tag for him, but I don't love the betting side per se in this matchup with Crosby. I think he could outdog a Giuseppe. It could be a crazy back and forth. If I'm going to touch anything here, it would just be plus money Crosby, the plus 135 money line. I don't want to mix around and mesh these parlays up with, a Crosby dog or potentially try to prop it up with Crosby. Oh, Crosby decision, plus 250. I could see him getting a knockout. Plus 435 for a Crosby KO. He's got punching power. He comes forward with a lot of pressure and throws hard shots. I like Crosby here. Now, the next piece of the favorite underdog section, this one here is technically a pick'em's line. It's Tyson Pedro, but we've been having flip-flops and back and forths, and I felt like how close the line is, it's deserving enough to be brought up in this section. It's minus 115 for Tyson Pedro, though he opened as a plus 105 underdog. Anton Turkalj opened as a minus 125 favorite. We have a damn even line between these two. If you find Pedro at any bit of plus money, I think he's quite live to win. I believe he's going to beat Turkalj. I'm not impressed by Turkalj. 0-2 in the UFC. Pedro's still a decent fighter. A lot of people are judging the fuck out of him for the Modestas Bukauskas loss. And yes, that was an underwhelming performance. Yes, he looked off in that fight. Suppose he had stomach issues. And you can tell in his face he was not in that fight. Mentally, he wasn't there. And obviously, his performance suffered. But when Pedro's on, he's good enough to beat an 0-2 in the UFC Turkalj. These lines are close, but recognize that the UFC is giving him, in my opinion, a potential layup. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be the easiest fight of his life. I think Pedro's going to be pushed in this matchup, and I think he ends up winning a hard-fought decision. Could he lock up a sub? Possible, but Turkalj's solid on the ground. He subbed Ibo Islam, who's a scary prospect at light heavyweight, who just won on Contender Series a couple weeks back. So I like Pedro. I think that he's going to win the fight at near even money. I felt he had to be brought up here because his, possibility of winning is there as an even money line. And I just wanted to include him in something where I could really get a little deeper into it. I think he beats Turkalj. He's going to outwork him. I think he's a slicker striker and he's the better grappler when fights hit the mat. So Pedro should win the fight. And I'm thinking probably a win by decision. That is the favorite underdog section. I do want to jump into the prop/value bets and check them out. All right. So let's look at this prop/value bet section here. I have two that I wrote down that I felt were essential to bring up. I kind of hinted at the Radke one, so I'll bring that up first. Radke to win by submission is going to be my call here, and it's plus 175. I think there is a high likelihood of a Radke submission. Specifically, I'm kind of thinking rear naked choke. I see him getting on top of Blood Diamond. Now, sure, he could end up going for the stoppage, looking for a ground and pound TKO. That's plus 235, just worth noting. I feel like this fight's going to end up ending inside of the distance, that under 2.5, minus 185. For Blood Diamond, he needs an emphatic knockout. I think Radke could beat him on the cards, out wrestling him, could give him some difficulty striking. He's not a bad stand-up fighter, being Radke. But definitely submission. Submission prop is what I like more so than anything in this matchup here. And I think it's quite possible. It's plus 175. Listen, take this section with a grain of salt because it's things that I look to snipe out that we haven't already spoke upon. And then the next one here, as far as the prop/value bet section, Alexander Drago Volkov knockout. I'm picking Drago to win. I think knockout is possible for him. I just wanted to, mention it, but the line is not great at plus 115. But I feel like he could TKO Tuivasa in the second or third round in this fight. Now, as far as the over 1.5 is even money, I have a feeling we're going over 1.5 at minus 115. So I'll also say that over 1.5 is a sneaky possibility between these heavyweights because Volkov is a guy that, yes, he's gotten some first round stoppages as of late. He does take his time. He paces himself in fights. And that's how he's able to win with, good technical game. So Volkov obviously is in the slate as a potential winner and something to talk about with the prop/value bet section. But I do want to jump to the parlays, and I'm going to immediately just bring this one up. It's Ulberg, Adesanya. Yes, it's a little bit of an uglier tag because we're looking at -170 range for it, but I think the likelihood of it coming through is certainly there this weekend. Now, I'm looking to add a little steam to it. Who would I throw in? Well, let's say you want to throw Manel Kape. It'll at least bring you to +100. I think this one's a potentially heavy hitter. Jamie Mullarkey as well for +180. I think these four fighters win. Now, you can mix and match the parlay here however you'd like it. I feel like we'll take Adesanya off for one. We go Ulberg, Kape, Mullarkey +143, but let's just take Mullarkey off our lineup too. Ulberg, Kape -136. At the end of the day, yes, we're in the minus tag. We're in the favorite status, but I think it's a high possibility that it ends up happening. I do. I really believe it. Now, if you want to, do something without my lock of the week, you're like, yo, I want to fade your lock. I know a lot of people look to fade it at times, even though I'm on an absolute roll right now. We could ride with Adesanya, Kape, Mullarkey +105. Hakparas is not going to give us a ton of steam, unfortunately. So that's why I'm not crazy about throwing him on, but +148 if you had him on your lineup. Now I'm going to clear the slate off, and I'm going to drop something with, I think, value to likelihood being there. I think Carlos Ulberg with Tyson Pedro is really interesting. If you find him at plus money, look at that. You'll get +181. Ulberg, Pedro, close money, even line, potential dog parlay with the slightest of dogs, Pedro, and then running it up with Ulberg around +180. Think this is a heavy hitter. Also throw in main event +224. Mullarkey should win +354. You want to get crazy with it? We bring the over in this fight right here. And now we got +790. Now we're in the big fucking juice territory. But listen, guys. Please be cautious with your bets this week. Be cautious with your parlays. You can run through with the high confident picks and, throw a potential dog. I'm not telling you to go throw Kiefer Crosby on your slate. I think that's a potentially risky move to make. I like Ulberg a lot as the lock, and I think you can mix them in some parlays with some different guys. And if you're looking for the big plus, obviously I dropped it off with Volkov and Tuivasa over in their fight with Ulberg, Pedro, Adesanya, Mullarkey around +700. Safer parlays are your best option. 2-3 fighters max for your highest likelihood of success. When you go more than that, you go in the lottery ticket plays. Even if they're high confidence picks like these four, obviously it's riskier. +354 is a nice plus tag. And I do see these fighters all getting their hand raised on Saturday. I'm looking forward to it, guys. I think we got a great card coming at us. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode of this week's Best MMA Bets. Definitely let me know your lock of the week in the comments. Let me know some of your most confident picks and favorite underdogs. Throw your favorite parlay out, too. Maybe you guys got some crazy plus money parlay that you're thinking. Let me know. I want to see it. Drop it in the comments. If you got nothing to say in those comments, but just enjoy the content, as always, drop a W in the chat to boost the algorithm for your boy. Much love, my people. I appreciate you all tuning into the show. Smash the likes. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Make sure you turn on those post notifications. Don't just have them on personalized. Put them on all so you don't miss a video, because I got daily content coming on the channel and you don't want to miss it. Much love, my people. I will see you all in the next one. Peace, everybody.